Hello, welcome back. This video will be discussing the role of objects in a sentence. What is an object? And we'll be looking at direct and indirect objects. So if you'd like to follow along with me, the first type of object that I want to discuss is called a direct object. Let's look at a definition of a direct object. A direct object is the direct receiver of the action expressed in the action verb. So let's explain that a bit further. It is a word to which the verb carries the action from the subject. The direct object answers the question what, or it also answers the question whom. Right? So it's going to ask what or whom after an action verb. So it always follows an action verb. Now another term for an action verb with a direct object is called a transitive verb. So if you have an action verb and an object is following, that action verb is known as a transitive verb. So rules sometimes are hard to follow, so I have provided you with a number of examples to clarify. And here are three, so follow along with me and I will explain what the object is and how you know how to pick out the direct object. The first example, I ate my lunch after class. So first, the subject is I. The verb is ate, that's the action. Eating is an action. So ask yourself, what did you eat? I ate what? What did I eat? You're asking the question what after a verb? Well, you ate your lunch. So lunch is the direct object of the sentence. It's the direct object. It's the lunch that's receiving the action. Janice ordered the pizza at 7 o'clock. Ordered is the verb. It's a transitive verb because we've got the direct object following it, which is pizza. Because you could say, what did Janice order? She ordered what? Ordered what? The answer is she ordered the pizza. So pizza becomes the object. This is the object here. O for object, pizza. The third one, Mr. Brown explained the rules to the class. The verb is explained. It's an action verb. It has to be an action verb in order for a object to follow. And ask yourself what? Mr. Brown, what did he explain? You're asking either what or whom. He explained what? Well, here's your answer. He explained the rules. So rules becomes the direct object of the sentence. So please keep in mind that action verbs can take two kinds of objects. They can take direct objects, which we've just looked at, or they can also take something called an indirect object. So let's discuss what an indirect object is. An indirect object of the verb tells two things. It tells to or for whom, or it also tells to or for what. All right, to or for whom, or to or for what something is done. That's a little bit confusing, the wording. So take a look with me, and I've given you some examples, and that will help you to understand the rules better. In this first example, the salesperson handed me the purchased item. So again, you need the action verb. Handed is the action. It becomes a transitive verb. So that's your verb. And you would say, handed to whom? Who was handed this? So it's not what anymore, it's whom, to whom. So in these examples, you ask the question what, and these, it would be whom. So you'd say handed to whom? It was handed to me. So me becomes the indirect object. Or in this second example, send us a postcard while you're on your trip. You've got the verb, send, and that's a transitive verb. And you would say send to whom? And your answer is to us. So us, it's being sent to us. Us becomes the indirect object. So follow along a little further. A sentence that contains an action verb and a direct object may also contain an indirect object. So the indirect object becomes the indirect receiver of the action that's expressed in the verb. Now let's look at an example. So basically what this is saying, this rule is that a sentence that has an action verb can have both a direct object as well as an indirect object. So please look at this next example, and it explains the rule a little bit further. John gave Sally a beautiful gift. Looking at this example, you've got the action verb gave. That's the verb. The action verb is gave. So you can first find the direct object, because you would say, what did John give to Sally? All right, so that's the first thing. You find the direct object by saying gave what? The answer is gift. So he gave a gift. So this is what he gave, a gift. So this becomes the direct object. Okay, so when you say what? So you first find the object by asking gave what, and your answer is a gift. So gift now becomes the direct object because it's the direct receiver of the action of giving. So now you know that John is the subject, gave is the verb. What did John give? A gift is the direct object. You still have the word Sally in the sentence. So what is Sally in the sentence? Well, Sally becomes the indirect object because Sally indirectly received the action of giving because she got the gift. She got the thing that was given. So an indirect object receives the action in the verb indirectly by receiving the direct object. So Sally is the indirect object, and she received the gift, which is the direct object. So I hope you do understand that. Just take a look at the sentence and look at what directly who directly receives the action from the verb. So John gave. What did John give? He gave a gift. So gift becomes a direct object. And to whom was the gift given? So you could answer to whom it was given to Sally. So that's an easy way to look at it. If you answer what, and it answers the question what, it's the object, the direct object. And if it's who is the receiver of it, to whom, it becomes the indirect object. So how can you find the indirect object in a sentence? Well, first, the indirect object comes between the verb and the direct object. It always comes between the two. So as you can see in the sentence, John gave Sally a beautiful gift. John is the subject. The verb is gave. What did he give? A gift is the object. So Sally is in between the verb and the object. So Sally becomes IO, the indirect object. Another thing to look at, the indirect object can be reworded as a phrase beginning with to or for, and you could reword the above example and say, John gave to Sally a beautiful gift. And if you reword it, it makes it a little bit easier to find out what's the direct and the indirect object. So rewording using a phrase beginning with to or for is a sign that Sally was an indirect object in the original sentence. So John gave what? He gave a gift. To whom? To Sally. So that's how you can break up your sentence. So here are some a couple of other examples. Let's take a look at this one together. Mr. Green gave the class a difficult test. Let's work on this one together. So you could reword it to make it easier and say Mr. Green gave a difficult test to the class. You can switch it up. So the action is gave, that's the verb. And say, what did he give? Well, he gave a test. So this would have to be the direct object. He gave a test. And who was the receiver? Who got the test? So you're asking now the question who? It's the class. So the class becomes the indirect object, IO, the indirect object. Another example, the cashier handed the customer the receipt. The cashier handed the customer the receipt. There's your question, your statement. Let's analyze it. You could reword it and say, the cashier handed the receipt to the customer. So if you add in the word to, it makes it easier. So now, the cashier is the subject. Your verb, your action is handed, it was given to. What did the cashier hand? Well, she handed, answers what? For the object, it would be the receipt. So you know that's the direct object. And to whom was it handed? Who was given the receipt? It's the customer. So to whom would be the indirect object. And your answer would be the customer. So let's look at a couple of examples together, 2 more, just to explain it and clarify it for you. The first sentence, my manager is giving me a raise at the end of the month. So your subject is manager. Your action verb, your transitive verb is giving. You've got the helper verb and the main verb, is giving. So the first thing you'd say is ask what, to know what the object, the direct object is. My manager is giving what? What is he giving? Well, he's giving a raise. A raise. So raise becomes the object. But now you've got me. So who's receiving that action? I am. So to who? To whom? To who or whom? Who's being given the raise? Me. So me becomes the indirect object. Okay? And in this next example, my boss gave her a wonderful compliment. Boss is your subject. Gave is the transitive verb because it'll be followed by an object, a direct or indirect object, gave. And so now again say gave what? To know what the direct object is. What did my boss give? He gave a compliment. So compliment becomes the object, the direct object. And who is the receiver of the compliment? Well, her. She was the one that received it. So her now becomes the indirect object, because that's the receiver of the action. So I hope you understand these rules. You might wonder, why do you need to know what a direct or an indirect object, what does it mean, why is it important? You really need to understand the function of every word in a sentence in order to write better and to understand errors in your writing. So this is why I've explained the differences between a direct and an indirect object. So just to recap and as a quick conclusion, I'd like you to remember that not all sentences that contain a direct object will also contain an indirect object. They might have one, but they might not have both. But indirect objects are very common. So learning to recognize the many parts of a sentence will help you to understand the sentences you read, and they will also assist you in constructing well-written sentences. So that is the importance of understanding what each element of a sentence is and what its function is within the sentence. So thank you so much, and if you're still unsure about these rules, try the practice questions. There are some practice questions and quizzes in my website, and if you still need further assistance, please contact me within the website, and I'm glad to talk to you, meet with you, and discuss it further. Thank you so much, and I'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.